Welcome to NEK-TV Rocks. My guest today is Lynn Gatt. She's the executive director, the brand new executive director of Orleans County Restorative Justice. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So you landed here the beginning of January.
That's right.
And now you're running in circles trying to find where everything is because post-COVID, nobody knows anything.
That's right. It's really exciting to be here. I'm very much enjoying it, and it's a return to my roots as a practice. So that's really quite a gift at the end of a career.
Right. I mean, a lot of us were familiar with the program, and then COVID hit.
Right.
And probably you were one of the most affected programs because you couldn't go out and do what you do.
Yeah.
And your program isn't really something you can do on Zoom. Not in the same way.
It's challenging, for sure. It does require relationship and community building and capacity building in that way. So, yeah, I think it was very, very difficult to manage that. Yeah.
So now you're sort of at ground zero again.
Yeah.
And so you've got this wonderful open field in front of you, which is both overwhelming and really exciting. Mm-hmm. What are you planning on?
Well, my first move, or the first thing that I'm really interested in doing, is addressing Orleans County broadly in terms of what do people know, not just about our center and programs, but also what do people understand restorative justice means and what that is for a community. So that is sort of project one in the first year, and some of the activities that I'm doing to facilitate that is, of course, on a personal level, on an executive director level, going out and meeting the community as much as possible. And also what we're doing is we're relaunching our website, which hasn't been updated, I think, in
10 years.
At least 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And we've started doing newsletters really focused on what is restorative justice, getting stories from volunteers about why they volunteer in various programs that we run and what the experience is, and then we'll be looking at getting additional information out about people who have participated in our programs. And so the difference, I think, that this was started prior to my becoming the executive director, but now you can see the actual newsletters in public spaces. You know, I put it in laundromats in various stores through Orleans County. You know, community stores, post office, government, libraries.
It's great.
So the hope is that anyone and everyone in the community gets to understand that restorative justice is really a program for them, whether they're participating directly with the center.
How do you define restorative justice?
So I did bring a chart for us, and that might be useful to utilize. But restorative justice, the broader sort of concepts are that when someone causes harm in the community, there is an individual victim or victims, and there's also an impact to the community.
Right.
So what restorative justice tries to do is to acknowledge the impact that harm has caused individuals and the community, and to offer support for people who have experienced harm to really bring that forward and to process that, which is different than the criminal justice center or system, where they may get to say something, may not get to say something, and then it's really by a very structured, clear,
unfair system.
Yes, system. And the person who caused harm is really encouraged to take responsibility for that harm, to then restore
Yeah.
back to the community and to learn what that impact really was on a very personal level, and hopefully that the activities that are assigned and worked through in a panel help them to make different choices. So, yeah.
And how is that working locally? Because I'm assuming that what you would like from this is a way of people learning about you and your
Definitely.
program and becoming involved in some way.
Absolutely. So like I said, we're launching a website. We've got the newsletters. The core programs that we're running currently is the restorative justice panels, and that is pre-charge agreements with law enforcement and state's attorney, and a pre-charge format where people are given the opportunity to participate in a panel, and there's certain level of charges that they will entertain that for. So that's a process where someone will come in and meet with a panel of people, of volunteers, local community volunteers, to talk about what's happened and how to make reparation. So we have that. We also have the COSA, which is less restorative, but I think is really a critical program, which is that community support program for people exiting the jails,
Criminal justice system.
Criminal justice
It's
system.
a really important program.
It's a very important program, and again, run by volunteers with the goal of helping somebody to reintegrate safely into the community and to address stigma, address barriers, address sort of some of those issues.
Are you able to help with some of the practical stuff, like somewhere to live? Or
Yeah, I wish I
job?
could say that. That I would take you on a 30-minute diatribe of what housing and transportation
It's
challenges
awful.
are.
It is awful.
Terrible. But anyway, so those are two core programs. We also offer a once-a-month free clinic, legal clinic. It's by appointment, so people do have to call. And that's really wonderful. It's really, really busy, and we're certainly advertising
That's the legal
it now.
clinic.
That's a legal clinic. People are meeting with a lawyer for 30 minutes, free, and it's wonderful.
How do people access that one?
They call the center directly, and we'll book an appointment.
Cool.
Yeah. And we're hoping to do an expungement. We have an agreement with the state's attorney that we can offer an expungement this year, a clinic, a special day where people can come. That too will be sort of by appointment, and because there is some work to be done, but we're hoping to have that sometime in July, August in there, an expungement clinic.
And people will be able to make an appointment for
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
and
it'll
hopefully
get
get something
advertised.
expunged.
Yes, to get, charges expunged. Because expungements are a very critical
Yes.
process. There are so many barriers that people have to face when they have records, criminal
Yes.
records. So,
They certainly are.
yeah, so we're working with that. We're very excited to be partnering with Umbrella. We're doing a couple of programs with them. That are brand new, and we'll be using our centers together in collaboration and really looking at victim services generally and how they're being offered.
Right.
We will also partner with the victim's advocate in the courts and see, what's working well, what are the needs, and how do we
Right.
provide that. So looking to really start some conversations about that for Orleans County as well. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, there's one more.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm looking to do a pilot project and have an agreement with the Community on Aging to offer an intensive program for a set number, a small number. It's a pilot program for seniors who are living in the community and struggling right now, and how to help build a network for them. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
How many staff do you have?
Well, there's me.
And there's you. And
There's
you.
actually 2 staff,
Okay.
more or less full-time, not quite. There's the reentry coordinator, the COSA coordinator, and there's also the restorative justice panel coordinator. And then we have teams of volunteers who are phenomenal. I mean, we couldn't do anything without our volunteers. They are well-trained, really hold restorative justice and caring for the community as their prime sort of motivation for doing anything. And they're invested in people in this community, so we rely very heavily on our volunteers. We train them, and we're working to do more training for volunteers.
How do you find your volunteers?
That's a really good question. Often it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeking to maybe coordinate something, whether that's through the new universities or colleges. I don't know what the word is. I'm Canadian. We call it university, but the colleges here in Vermont to either offer internships or start to look at how we can partner, certainly for those students who might need an internship in restorative justice practice, but also who might later then become volunteers. Yeah.
And that's into the future, but reality, if somebody in the community currently was interested.
Lovely. They just call the center. Love
You say,
it.
please come in.
Please come in. There is some paperwork. We do
Yeah,
have
of
to
course.
do background checks
Of course.
through Department of Corrections. And what I'll say about that is, I think if anybody, listen, we were all young once. We all made mistakes at some point. Barring any real past criminal activity, I think we can all pretty much forgive ourselves for something that may have happened when you were 18.
One of the most effective clinicians I ever worked with, and in fact I was in social work school with this person, was somebody who had spent 9 years in jail.
There you go.
He had certainly had a checkered past.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And brought real life experience that nobody else could have done in the way that he could do it. So I don't think having a criminal record is a relevant reason not to hire somebody. But that's my personal bias.
Yeah, no, I
so-
appreciate you bringing that. I mean, we are governed by certain factors because some of our funding is through DOC, and they have their own. But I am very, very interested and appreciate you bringing that in peer mentorship. We used it extensively in community mental health.
Right.
It's extensively used in
recovery programs.
and
time.
in First Nation practices.
Right.
That your elders are the people that can provide, who have all that experience,
Right.
and who can provide, other community members in such an effective way. And so I too believe very strongly in peer mentorship.
Right.
And that will be something to look forward to in the future.
Good.
That is a separate program from DOC sponsored programs, I think.
They are such hypocrites because here they are preaching rehabilitation and clearly not practicing it. So.
Well, I will say this about the new commissioner.
Uh-huh.
He is very invested in restorative justice.
Good.
It breaks down a little bit across
Yeah.
the state in terms of its how it's implemented in different districts, more or less the same, but not equal in terms of how people are accessing it and the referrals and in various other challenges that may come up. But the commissioner himself is very interested and really endorses restorative programs. So I'm hopeful that there can be, in the next year, 2 years, more consistently, broadly across the state in terms of how that's implemented. Yeah.
That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's exciting.
Because it's so crazy to say that we're, quote, helping people by locking them up, and then clearly not helping them.
Now you're going to put me on my soapbox.
That's okay.
You want my soapbox? My soapbox
A condensed
is this.
version, sure.
Oh, I'll make it condensed. So the Northeast Kingdom here has the largest institution
Right.
in the state. We have a total of 5 beds for men who are coming out of the system that need community, like the earliest possible
Yeah.
release, and then all kinds of services can be implemented and people can get the help they need as much as possible,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
And I respect that this is not for everybody, but for a large portion it can be.
Absolutely.
5 beds does not nearly cut it.
Of course not.
And our problem is this, that men, or I'm sure women as well, so people are being, have an early, the earliest release
Right.
date. Then they have to apply to these 5 beds that are full, always, and then they have to sit and wait till something
wait,
comes up.
and wait.
And so taxpayers are paying these additional months and months that people are being housed in this huge institution.
For no good reason.
Yeah, where we could be doing some
Right.
real work. So that is my soapbox.
Well, if you'd like another piece to add to your soapbox, I'm always willing to add a piece to a soapbox.
Awesome.
Let's look at the system of bail,
Oh,
where you have
yeah.
people who remain locked up purely because of poverty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's bizarre. It's a bizarre system.
Well, the whole system of bail fines
Right.
it's a complicated formula.
Mm-hmm.
I did participate in a sort of state, nationwide forum that talked about this, and there are states that, of course, are getting rid of fines.
Right.
However, many states are not, and it's a complicated formula because fines in Vermont also support programs.
Mhm.
And so when the will of government isn't going to be to have
Right.
restorative and to really look at equity and really look at poverty and crime and
Right.
punishment, then you have a system that sort of is the snake eating its tail, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The really interesting thing, or one of the so many interesting things about this, in the Northeast Kingdom, where poverty is so in your face all the time, you would think, and you can hope, that we as a community will become incredibly invested in restorative justice, because
Yeah.
it could be so effective here for everybody.
I agree. I think there is the will for many, many, many people who are in, let's say, in government, law enforcement. I've met certainly in states' attorneys. Everybody would agree that this is far more effective in addressing recidivism and addressing, community safety. But the system is a big bulk. It's the Titanic, right? How
Right.
do you turn that around? And so
Right.
that's a
And
very
this
hard thing.
area, as a sacrifice zone, not only got a landfill, a large hole in the ground, but we got a whopping great prison and no resources for people when they're discharged or their families.
That's right.
Yay.
That's right. And I think there are, as I said, in the community, I think there is a will, there is a desire to
Right.
make a change. I don't know how you go about doing that. But, I'm going to state my case and my opinion, and I hope I don't, anger anyone. But best intentions,
Right.
intentions. You know, this isn't going to go away, these
No, it's
problems. So how do we work together? I've been really fortunate to be working with some really wonderful people that I met all of 3 months ago who really have community focus.
Yes.
And how do we partner, not silo ourselves.
Right.
How do we partner with each other
Mhm.
to utilize what minimal dollars are available? Let's
Right.
be honest, there's not a lot of money.
No, there's not.
To really serve people, to really work together to offer the best possible programming and
Right.
not stay back and sort of hang on to your little piece of it, but to really push it forward and partner. So
Are you in the schools?
not exactly yet. I mean, I've been here 3 months.
Really?
My
You
focus.
haven't got it all together yet?
I'm really interested in the schools, obviously, you know, as a concept and as programming to really, but schools, again, this is another system that can't silo itself. And so it has to invest in a program or in a philosophical approach and then utilize it. It can't be based on one person's idea.
No.
It'll never sustain. So it really has to endorse a theoretical
Mhm.
belief system that we want our particular community of schools, when we have harm caused, to address the harm in this way as opposed to a punitive,
Right.
right?
And there are certainly schools in some other areas.
Oh, sure.
And I can think of some
Absolutely.
in particular where it's the practice of the school.
Of course. And again, this is sort of the dynamic
Right.
throughout the kingdom. And I don't think it's unique to the kingdom by
Right.
any means. It's really across Vermont that
Mhm.
there are many, many people trying to do really excellent
Yeah.
work in a variety of
Exactly.
ways. I think, too, that COVID really, you know, I was down in Barrie for many, many years, and we worked so hard to break down silos. And then COVID came,
Right.
and we all went
Up
home.
went the silos.
And we all went home for 2.5, 3 years.
Right.
And now we have that same problem.
And we don't even know how to talk to each other anymore.
No, it's got to be a new conversation
Yeah.
as well. It can't be just a continuation of the old conversations. I think we have to really be looking at, so this was then, this happened, and now where are we headed? And what's the vision, and how do we get there together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do we engage everybody along the way?
Right. Where can we start conversations and build from that? And I believe that there are lots and lots of people in the kingdom all over in these little tiny communities and in Newport or other areas that really want to have these conversations.
I agree with you, and I think there are some of the small communities that have already started those conversations
You bet.
themselves. They may have got driven apart during COVID. There's a community garden, or there was here, on one of
Lovely.
the side streets, and they built a clay oven, a brick oven,
Nice.
and some of the kids did some damage to it.
Yeah.
The community caught the kids,
Yep.
and they dealt with them as a community.
Perfect.
But it involved the kids facing the consequences of what they did, dealing with how annoyed some people were with that behavior, and then working to fix it.
Right.
The community handled it for themselves. It was great.
That is excellent. That's exactly what restorative
Right.
justice is.
Right.
And what would the kids learn in that situation, and what relationships would they have built, and future
Right.
opportunities were they provided versus going to the police station, going to court,
So
and then
pointless.
well, you know, then they have to state, well, it wasn't me, you
It
know,
was
they
so-and-so,
have,
right.
you know, and so they never have to take responsibility,
Right.
really, because in the criminal justice, if you take responsibility, then you're guilty,
Yes.
and then there's punishment, and
Yes.
who wants to be punished?
Nobody in their right mind.
Yeah.
It's a tough system that we've created.
Yeah, I like to say that we've inherited, and how do we bring communities together to really look at that and make a change, invest in the communities they're in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And probably most people, if they can apply it to their own families,
Absolutely.
want that change.
Yeah.
It's sometimes harder when it's somebody else who's taken the gas out of your car or whatever stupid thing they've just done. But you would like their head removed. But when you think of that as your neighbor's kid, or
Right, and
whatever.
restorative process gives lots of space for all that emotion
Yeah.
and all that experience. We're not saying you don't have a right to be angry
Of
or
course you
hurt
do.
or disappointed. Of course you do, yes. And how would you like to address that?
Right.
Stay angry
Yeah,
or
it's a
really
choice.
resolve it?
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's for the health of the community. I think one of the important concepts that I like to integrate a whole lot more clearly into restorative justice is that it's part of the determinants of health in a community, that safety and having a voice around safety
Right.
belongs to the people, and that is your right in terms of, in the same that your right to be educated and to have resource and to, all the other determinants of health
Right.
that we have identified as how to live a full and healthy and happy life, which is the right for every single person,
Mhm.
right?
And what people up here will tell you is that may be true in Chittenden County, but it sure isn't up here.
It's absolutely true up here.
Right.
You bet. We all deserve that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, in the last few minutes,
Yeah.
how can people help?
Volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to meet with you. We'd love to get ideas. If you can't volunteer, but you want to come in and just learn about us, absolutely. Read our newsletters and share our newsletters widely.
Can you sign up for those, or do you just
if-
walk into a store and find one?
Well, if you can't find one, definitely come to the center or
Where is
call
the
the
center?
center. The center's at 79 Coventry. Is that street?
Yeah.
Coventry
Opposite
Street.
Pick and Shovel.
That's right. It's across from the Pick and Shovel.
Across from Tim and Doug's, which opens today.
Exactly. Everybody go get a creamy. Let's celebrate spring.
Right.
And if you can't find it, come to the center. It's the Hood building,
Yeah.
and we're Suite 5. So just walk in or call us, and we're happy to either send it electronically or provide a copy. They're monthly, so when we launch this new website, which should be by the end of March, then they'll be posted on that website,
Right.
so you can just go on the website and read what's been done.
Do you have a Facebook page or other
We
social
do
media?
have a Facebook page. I am just not a fan of Facebook, so thank goodness one of my
So
staff,
long as you've
Deb-
got somebody who does it.
I do, and the coordinator for the restorative panels, Deb, she manages that, and
That's
I'm
great.
forever grateful for that.
Annoying though it is, as
a mixed
system,
blessing.
it's really a good way, up here anyway, of getting information out.
You bet. If anybody has any questions, if they want us to speak somewhere, maybe in other community groups, church groups, other programs, we're happy to go. We've been reaching out to a number of communities, non-traditional sort of communities, as well as any community.
Have you
that's
talked to the city council yet?
Not yet, but I will. I'm going to.
that's great.
I absolutely am going to. But there are many, many communities here outside of Newport, of course.
Yes.
That I want to reach out to and include and invite in. And
Are you just doing Orleans, or do you cross the line into Essex too?
we do Essex North. Essex South tends to be
Right.
Caledonia.
It's a long way out.
Yeah, it's a long way out. But I do know the sheriff, and he's a great guy, and he
Yeah.
endorses.
That's great.
He endorses
Yeah.
restorative practice for
But
sure.
Island Pond and places like that, you
Yes.
will be.
We will, and
Good.
if people are challenged to get out to us, let's hear from you, and we
Mhm.
can problem solve how to get to you.
That's great.
So we really want to reach out.
Yeah, certainly one of our biggest challenges up here is transportation.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, yeah. So that's ongoing, and we're problem solving that. I put housing and transportation at the top of my soapbox list. Yeah.
Is your list getting longer by the minute?
Well, so far so good. Like I think people have been very welcoming, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for that, and very receptive, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
And I feel really positive about this area of the kingdom. I've been in the kingdom 10 years now, so just in the southern part of it.
Well,
But
now
I-
you're in the real kingdom.
And now I'm in the north, but I hail from northeast Quebec, so for me it's like, north is good.
Yes, it is.
I like the north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we're
Yeah.
out of time. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And I really look forward to seeing this spread in the community.
Well,
I think it's so important.
Great. And I'm looking forward to working with you, Pam.
Be great.
Yeah, thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.